While India may have officially rejected Japan's call for an Asian NATO to contain the expansionist ambitions of the Chinese PLA, behind the scenes, India is quietly boosting its military alliances with Japan, Australia, and the US with the same goal in mind. A temporary truce between the Indian Army and Chinese PLA has been achieved after a 4-year military standoff. However, New Delhi believes that normalcy with caution is the way forward with China, and that involves boosting its military alliances with like-minded democracies. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh met with his Japanese counterpart General Nakatani recently in Laos on the sidelines of the 11th ASEAN Defence Ministers meeting. The Defence Ministry released a statement with the details saying, quote, "To further improve interoperability between the Indian and Japanese forces, reciprocal provision of supply and services agreement between the two countries and participation of militaries in various bilateral and multilateral exercises were discussed by both the ministers." Unquote. The militaries of the two allies, India and Japan, will have the added advantage of using each other's bases for repair and replenishment of military supplies when the pact is formally sealed. The pact will be crucial for both India and Japan amid shared concerns over China's expansionist military ambitions in not just the South China Sea, but the Indian Ocean region as well. The pact is also expected to pave the way for future collaboration on emerging and critical technologies, especially in the military domain. The Japanese Defense Ministry stated, quote, "The two ministers affirmed the importance of multilateral defense cooperation and exchanges in the security environment, which is growing its severeness, and concurred on working together widely with countries which share fundamental values such as democracy and the rule of law." Unquote. The real breakthrough, though, came for the Indian Navy, with India and Japan signing a Memorandum of Implementation or MOI for co-development of the Unicorn mast, a stealth-enhancing radio antenna for naval warships. This would be the first case of co-development and co-production of defense equipment between India and Japan. The Indian Navy is eager to induct the integrated Unicorn antenna, which will see the co-development of this sophisticated technology by the Indian Public Sector Undertaking (BEL). So how can the Unicorns be a game changer for the Indian Navy against the Chinese PLA? The Unicorn system's unique design helps reduce the host ship's overall radar cross-section, thus enhancing its stealth capabilities. The system's horn-shaped structure allows numerous antennae to be clubbed into a single unit, which in turn boosts wartime communications, as well as reduce the ship's radar cross-section, which makes it difficult to be targeted by enemy weapon systems. Now, Japan itself has been witnessing repeated incursions by Chinese Coast Guard vessels in its territorial waters around the Senkaku Islands, which of course the CCP claims as its own. The Senkaku Islands, which lie close to Taiwan, could spark the next conflict between ancient rivals China and Japan. The LAC standoff, however, showed that India remains one of the few powers in the world which is capable of going toe-to-toe with the Chinese PLA. Meanwhile, India and Australia have taken another step towards strengthening their own military alliance. On the 19th and 20th of November, New Delhi hosted the 11th edition of the India-Australia Air Staff Talks. The two nations inked an agreement enabling the Australian Air Force and the Indian Air Force to conduct reciprocal air-to-air refueling. Now, this is a major victory for the IAF for increasing its strategic reach in the Indo Pacific region. The pact will allow the fleet of Indian P-8I Poseidon aircraft being refueled by Australian mid-air refuelers without the need to return to home base in India, thus enabling a wider coverage for Indian maritime surveillance fleet. Aussie Deputy Chief of Air Force Harvey Reynolds also labelled India a top-tier security partner for Australia. The groundbreaking logistics agreement will also allow aircraft of the two nations to use each other's air bases for assistance of fuel, rest, ration and maintenance. Earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Australian PM Albanese had held a meeting at the sidelines of the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro, where Prime Minister Modi reiterated, quote, "Through our comprehensive strategic partnership, we continue to build on shared values and interests. particularly in defense and security, unquote. So have your say. How important is it for India to boost its defense alliances with allies in the Indo Pacific to counter Chinese expansionist threat? Leave a comment, hit the like button and subscribe to Inconnect News.